Hello, friends of the World's Well Project. Welcome to 2018. I hope you have had a wonderful Christmas season with the people you love and people that care for you. I wish you the best for 2018. Beautiful giant moon yesterday and hopefully tonight too. Just gorgeous. You should have seen her coming up from the horizon yesterday night. And this morning, also, before dawn, you can see the huge, beautiful moon out there. It's just gorgeous. And the dawn in the other side is just beautiful. It might be a good presage of a good omen, I hope, for what is to come in 2018. Difficult things are just coming through 2018. Just this morning, President Trump started today, the 2nd of January of 2018, saying that Pakistan is not good, that all the money, 250 million, that they were supposed to send to Pakistan this year, he said, no, Islamabad is not responding according to our wishes and is abiding terrorists. So, to this matter, Pakistan has said, well, after 16 years combating and providing intelligence to you guys and many other sources that fought Al Qaeda and ISIS and many other terrorist groups, they are disappointed with the commentaries that President Trump tweeted this morning regarding the service that Pakistan have provided the United States in order to fight terrorism in the Middle East. Very disappointing, Islamabad, and they say that they really don't need $250 million that Mr. Trump is denying to the government of Pakistan. The other issue here that we should keep in mind is that for the first time in all these years, Kim Jong-un is showing some kind of peace in terms of the Winter Games that are going to begin in February, just next month, and a delegation of skaters that have qualified for this event are expected to come and show up in the demilitarized zone in the gesture of good peace and goodwill between the two countries. It's obviously something that is expected to become not only a good will conversations between the two Koreans, but also that hopefully might come just in time so that the relationships between the two countries can go to governmental and political definitions of what peace, what kind of peace can we can be agreed in this year's 2018 commitments regarding the peace in the area between North Korea and South Korea. The United States, of course, and the rest of the world are hoping that this gesture from Mr. Kim Jong-un is also the beginning of a political relationship that can end up with good omens also for the dispute between North Korea and South Korea regarding the different policies that they apply in order for their governments to function. Good news for now about these matters. The other issue that we have to keep in mind at the beginning of 2018 is, of course, Iran. Iran has been in a lot of trouble because of protests in the country regarding the high cost of living that started last week. And apparently the death toll as of today is 20 guys that have been killed by security forces and police, and it's not clear how they died. But the abuse of the Iranian government against their people, the high cost of living, the lack of liberties, the lack of the inequalities between social classes, etc. And of course, the protests have evolved into more political issues here. It's not only the cost of living now. This week they're asking for democracy, they're asking for equality, and good salaries and a better standard of life. Okay, the United States is saying that no, it's just because the values of democracy, the people are asking for values of democracy in Iran. And we all know, of course, that Iran has broken some treaties that have to do with human rights and stuff like that. The civilian account of the people is not very happy right now. Okay, but what does the press say? You see, according to the Associated Press, it was the first report of a police officer dying during 5 days of unrest and raised the death toll to at least 13 people. Today, it's 20. The demonstrations, the largest to strike Iran since its disputed 2009 presidential election, began Thursday in Mashhad over economic issues and have expanded to several cities, with some protesters chanting against the government and the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Hundreds of people have been arrested. Iranian state television aired footage of a ransacked private bank, broken windows, overturned cars, and a fire truck that appeared to have been set ablaze. It said 10 people were killed by security forces during clashes Sunday night. Some are protesters trying to take over some police stations and military bases but face serious resistance from security forces, the state TV said. In a later report, the state TV said 6 people were killed in the western town of Tuizerkan, 295 kilometers southwest of Tehran, and 3 in the town of Shahinshah, 315 kilometers south of Tehran. It did not say where the 10 persons were killed. President Hassan Rouhani acknowledged the public's anger over the Islamic Republic's flagging economy, though he and others warned that the government wouldn't hesitate to crack down on those it considers lawbreakers. That was echoed Monday by Judiciary Chief Ayatollah Sadegh Larijani, who urged authorities to confront rioters, state TV reported. He said, Ayatollah Sadegh Larijani, that I demand all prosecutors across the country to get involved and the approach should be strong. Unquote. Rouhani also stressed Monday that Iran has seen many similar events and passed them easily. United States President Donald Trump, who has been tweeting in support of the protesters, continued into the new year describing Iran as failing at every level despite the terrible deal made with them by the Obama administration. The great Iranian people have been repressed for many years, he wrote. They are hungry for food and for freedom, along with human rights. The wealth of Iran is being looted. Time for change, tweeted the President of the United States, Donald Trump. Israeli, of course, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, calling the protesters brave and heroic, said in a video posted to YouTube on Monday that the protesters sought freedom, justice, and the basic liberties that had been denied to them for decades. Of course, Benjamin Netanyahu, a close ally of the United States, criticized the Iranian regime response to the protests and also chided European governments for watching in silence as the protests turned violent. While some have shared Trump's tweets, many in Iran distrust him because he has refused to recertify the nuclear deal and his travel bans have blocked Iranians from getting to the United States or getting US visas. A state TV has reported that some protesters invoked the name of the United States-backed Shah, who fled into exile just before Iran's 1979 Islamic Revolution and later died. Iran's economy has improved since its 2015 nuclear deal with world powers, which saw Iran agree to limit its enrichment of uranium in exchange for the end of some international sanctions. Tehran now sells its oil on the global market and has signed deals to purchase tens of billions of dollars worth of worth of Western aircraft. That improvement has not reached the average Iranian, however. Unemployment remains high, and official inflation has crept up to 10% again. A recent increase in egg and poultry prices by as much as 40%, which the government has blamed on a cull over avian flu fears, appears to have been the spark for the economic protests. Here in the World Wide Project, we have to consider other approaches when it comes to Iran, because we know that Iran has been the preferred target of Israel and the United States in the Middle East, since they are allies of Russia and Syria, and they are in their majority Shiites. The Shia people in Iran have not good relationships with Saudi Arabia, which is one of, if not the most influential country in the Middle East regarding the Arab countries and the Muslim countries. And as we all know, well, Saudi Arabia is in its majority Sunni, and Iran has not gone to war in more than 200 years with anybody else, except for the 1979 revolution, when, like it said in the United Press commentary here, the Associated Press, correct, that people are shouting for the Shah that was backed by the United States, and that's not something that we should consider as serious. Yes, if Iran has breaking some human rights issues, well, why is it that Saudi Arabia is still best pal with the Americans? It's just business. Oil interest, territorial and geopolitical interests is not peace what they're looking. They're looking for war. That's all. The 2018 year is supposed to be a year of peace deals and agreements between nations. But as things look, we don't have very good omens for 2018, guys. It is sad to say and recognize here that because of the truth that we know, that we mentioned the last edition of the World Project, which was how is that the AIPAC and the Jewish lobby is affecting American policy regarding the rest of the world. And when we see comments like this, when Benjamin Netanyahu supports the American tweets and invites and speaks of how Europeans watch in silence what is going on in Iran, is because their interests are against Iran, of course. It's an old struggle because Iran said many years ago that Israel shouldn't exist, etc. But Israel has used this to favor himself, to favor its state, and to strengthen the relationships with the European, the British, and of course the United States in order to get rid of the opposition, in this case Iran. But Iran since 2006 have demonstrated goodwill and no intention whatsoever to attack Israel. No bad intentions at all. That was mentioned in one of the editions of the World Project before. And if you follow the history behind this, and what was the comment of the Ayatollah Khomeini in 2006, you will find that Iran is not looking for trouble. Iran is not looking for war. And these kind of coups that are attempted by exciting the people with professional destabilizers and agitators, according to the president of Iran, is not going to work. Same with Ayatollah. He said, no, that's not going to work. Those tactics are well known by Iran, and we have surpassed them before. It's not going to happen again. Yeah, so if the interest for oil and gas and riches and to get rid of the opposition, which have the right to exist and to live according to their own laws, unless demonstrated attacks or genocide or the breaking of the human rights issues that are happening in 94 countries, Iran included, of course, but that doesn't exclude the state of Israel against the Palestinians or the United States, neither. So we have to be very serious when it comes to these kinds of accusations from Israel and the United States. Iran, I reiterate, is a country that deserves to live in peace. When they make the agreement with some of the most powerful countries which have nuclear power in the world, in Switzerland in 2015, is another expression from the Iranian government that they're not interested in war. But there are other interests that are looking for war. And that's going to destabilize, it's going to create war. It's going to just affect the whole world. And that's what they want, the powers that be. The World Wealth Project want to share your comments, also from the Associated Press. Likud members call for annexing. The ruling Likud Party Central Committee has unanimously endorsed a resolution calling for the annexation of West Bank settlements, sending a tough message to the Palestinians in the wake of United States President Donald Trump's recognition of Israel's capital. The decision Sunday night marked the latest step by Likud to distance itself from the internationally backed idea of establishing an independent Palestinian state as part of a future peace deal. The Palestinians condemned the decision and accused Trump of emboldening the Likud party. The Central Committee is only an advisory body, and Sunday's vote did not reflect an official policy change, but its decisions reflect the prevailing opinions in Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's party. Several leading politicians, including senior members of Netanyahu's cabinet, joined the vote to impose Israeli law on all liberated areas of settlements in Judea and Samaria. Among them were Intelligence Minister Israel Katz, Public Security Minister Gilad Erdan, Environmental Protection Minister Ziv Elkin, Deputy Foreign Minister Tzipi Hotovely, and Jerusalem Mayor Nir Barkat. Netanyahu, however, skipped the vote, and his office declined to comment. Erdogan said the Likud party was responsible for annexing Jerusalem and the Golan Heights in the 1980s, and it would do so with West Bank settlements as well. Our right to the land of Israel begins with Judea and Samaria, he said. Two states for two peoples is a concept that has disappeared from the world. Science Minister Ophir Akunis was quoted as saying by the Haaretz Daily. And to my joy, United States President Trump is sitting in the White House and does not accept this mistaken concept, reiterates Science Minister Ofer Akunis. Trump has said he hopes to broker what he calls the ultimate deal between Israel and the Palestinians, and he has appointed a high-level team headed by his son-in-law and advisor Jared Kushner to come up with a peace plan. Things are not looking handsome for 2018, I have to say. As long as the powers that be insist on geopolitical abuses, not recognizing the United Nations authority, which is put in the curtain of moths, because apparently it's not working at all in any issue around the world. And plutocrats keep on taking over the democracies of the world. This is not going to work for anybody. We hope for peace. Yes, we do. Governments say they talk for peace, and it's in the book of Matthew they say. They will talk about peace, but it's not going to happen. What's going to happen next if there's war between Saudi Arabia and Iran? If the Israelis supported Saudi Arabia against Iran? If the Americans support the Israelis and Saudi Arabia in going to war against Iran? This is literally, my friends, the end of the world. Why is that? Because all the interests and corporations, the TPP and the free trade agreements that are supported by these nations, that are also against Iran, are going to create enmity between the superpowers. That's why China and Russia are in so good terms right now. They are also building a bridge between Russia and China, one of the longest bridges in the world. And also, armament, technology, politics, and of course, a monetary unit that is going to change the game for the Americans and the Europeans. In these realities that we're living for 2018, the World Square Project just waits for the results. But in the meantime, what we can do is enjoy life while we can, but not being indifferent neither, because it's going to reach us. Every country in the world is going to be affected by this. And it's going to create two sides, the side that support the imperialism of the plutocrats and the side that supports all the countries and powerful countries that go against the plutocrats and their vision of the world. That's going to include the whole planet. It's not good news for 2018. And this is just the beginning. Let's hope that if North Korea establish peace agreement with South Korea, now that the Winter Olympic Games are coming, and that Kim Jong-un is showing a peaceful intentions regarding this matter, and possibly political peace agreements also with the United States, well, things are going to calm down a lot, because right now all the armies in the world, especially China, Russia, the United States, Japan, all those guys are in red alert. One of the other issues I wanted to comment to you guys regarding the artificial intelligence is that in Canada, it has run now, it's from today on, artificial intelligence is going to locate the people that have issues with suicide. Now that suicide rates have gone all the way up. Last year, for example, it was in 2016, the suicide rates around the world were the highest ever in recorded history. But especially First Nations, boys and girls that are being bullied, and how they comment in Facebook and their social media, how they feel. Well, artificial intelligence is going to follow up on those guys, especially if they have record of suicidal tendencies, and something that has been linked to the pharmaceutical industry, of course, and also because of the lack of government support for First Nations, which are the higher index of suicidals in Canada. So artificial intelligence is working out to identify these people in colleges and universities and communities in order to identify them and try to prevent suicide. And on the contrary, says the information, in order to prevent the suicides. This is very good news regarding artificial intelligence, but it's also the preamble or the preface for us to accept that artificial intelligence and the surveillance system is taking over the social media. And it's also related, of course, with the decision in the United States in order to control the internet, which is something that is against the Constitution, is something against human rights issues, is something against the freedom of speech and the right to speak what you think, the right to dissent, and the right to create opposite parties to parties that already exist. If it wasn't for the opposition, there wouldn't be democracy or agreements, or democracy will not have developed as we understand it today, which is pretty disappointing. When you compare the rest of the world, or I compare the rest of the world with places like Finland, Iceland, Norway, Holland, I cannot say England because England is in trouble, big trouble, and I have to dedicate one chapter to that. As a citizen, it's not that I'm an expert here, but I'm a citizen as a citizen of the world, because we are now connected to each other. We have to say something about England, and I think I have said enough in the last editions of the World Project. So I have to tell you guys that I hope you the best of the years. And I was afraid that I was not going to be able to make this edition because sometimes my voice doesn't work. Like in the last edition of the Roswell Project, she just went away. But also because the tensions around the world are so high that you never know when a third world war is going to begin. Especially now with the comments that the Associated Press and Western media are pushing for you and I to believe. And we have to consider other sources of information which are in the internet that the American policy regarding internet is trying to control. It's something that we don't want in Canada because when you participate and you compare this rest of the world, with the exception of the countries that I just mentioned, Switzerland, Holland, Northern Europe countries, and Canada, it's a privilege to live in countries like this. And we want to keep democracy working for us. But democracy is a word that has been used, misused, and abused for the last 200 years. And in the last 200 years, Friends of the Roswell Project, the democracy and the values of democracy as they have been exported in Iran, in Iraq, in Syria, and all these countries, and now they want to push in Iran, is not democracy. If democracy is to not create a two-state and not give the Palestinian people what they deserve by right, which is a country for themselves, that's not democracy. If there are countries and plutocrats that are supporting people that are against the freedom of Palestine, see, that's not democracy. And if there are democracies and freedom and all that lies and lies and lies that have been telling us, especially after 9/11, the biggest lie in history that has been proven to be a lie, and still governments and democracies use them as a battle horse in order to say that the rest of the world wants the democracy that the United States has. You have to find out what democracy is in the United States, because the United States right now is in big trouble. It's divided by race. The house crisis in the United States has never been as bad as never before in recorded history, and especially since the 1920s, when the segregation policies begun against the people that are not white, people that don't share the same values of being white, or the same religion, or the same beliefs in terms of politics. So it's something that we need to talk, and I have plenty of information to share with you. So I wish you the best in 2018. Don't forget to watch Our Lady Moon tonight. It's going to be just beautiful. It's going to be just amazing, just like yesterday. I hope you can see her when it's up in the horizon and just reaching for the stars, because it's just beautiful. I wish you the best of the years in 2018 for you and your family, and I hope you subscribe. And yeah, take a look to the rest of the information and the internet information that comes from other sources that are not just the Western media, mass media information that is trying to tell us that Iran has to be conquered by plutocrats just the same way that they did with Iraq. They pretend to do in Syria and failed, and now they want to take that war to South America. And speaking of South America, and I finish with this, there's elections in this country of Colombia. They won the Peace Prize in 2016. The president, because apparently he reached the peace process, which was something that lasted from a war of 52 years. The problem is that the Congress didn't approve one of the most important aspects of the peace process, and that was 16 places in Congress for peoples that were victims of the state and the paramilitaries and the security of the state by President Uribe, who is now a senator. They denied that possibility to the victims of this genocide and this war that occurred in the country. So it's a country that still suffered the traumatism of corruption and political corruption, to the point that I ask here from the World Without Project to the United Nations and the International Court of Justice to send people in order to prevent electoral fraud in 2018 and this year's election in such an important country in the world. Now that this country has, in 525 years, for the first time, in my opinion, and it's the opinion of many others, the chance to get rid of corruption and a political class that has ruled that country, so rich in peoples, in First Nations, in water, in biodiversity, in mining processes, and mining exploitation, in order, for the first time in 525 years, to reach for a real and true democracy. For us, for the country, for the world. Hope to see you next time and be the bearer of better news here. Au revoir. Goodbye.